My name is Diego, and I was there when Michael's story changed forever. It was a chilly morning on March 12, 2021, just outside a bustling cafe in downtown Seattle. Michael, a man with dreams as vast as the ocean, had just learned that his ex-wife was suing him for a hefty sum of $100,000. He stood there, his heart racing, as betrayal washed over him like a cold wave. He smiled, but the warmth didn't reach his eyes. It felt like the ground beneath him was crumbling. The rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the distant hum of traffic. An ordinary day turned extraordinary by a devastating revelation. Just a few weeks prior, they had shared a meal at that very cafe, reminiscing about the early days of their relationship, when laughter filled their conversations and love seemed unbreakable. Now, as he recalled those moments, Michael's thoughts spiraled through the memories of their shared dreams, including the restaurant they had once envisioned opening together, a cozy spot where they would serve the dishes that had brought them closer in the first place. How can blood turn to poison like this? What nobody knew was that this was just the beginning of a dark spiral that would test everything Michael held dear. The sun filtered through the kitchen window, casting warm beams of light across the counter where Michael stood, brewing a fresh pot of coffee. The aroma filled the air, mingling with the faint scent of fresh grass wafting in from the open window. It was one of those tranquil mornings that felt like a scene from a movie, birds chirping outside, the promise of a new day hanging lightly in the air. Michael poured himself a cup, savoring the first sip as the rich, dark liquid warmed him from the inside out. Today was special. It was the anniversary of his wedding to Rachel. He felt a rush of nostalgia thinking about their journey together. It hadn't always been easy, but they had built a life full of shared dreams and laughter. Just the other night, they had laughed over dinner, reminiscing about their first date, the way Rachel had playfully mocked his choice of salad dressing, and how he'd tried to impress her with his knowledge of wines. Yet, as he turned to place the coffee pot back, something caught his eye on the bathroom counter. A small, unfamiliar perfume bottle sat there, dainty and elegant, its contents shimmering in the morning light. Michael's heart sank. "Oh my God, I can't believe this," he muttered to himself, a chill creeping down his spine. He dismissed it at first, convincing himself it was just a gift from one of Sophia's friends. Rachel had taken to hosting her friends lately, and the place had become a revolving door of laughter and chatter. But as the minutes passed, doubt began to gnaw at him. Rachel had always been charming and alluring, the kind of woman who drew people in with her charisma. Yet, there was a restlessness in her eyes these days, a flicker of something that felt more like escapism than excitement. Michael pushed the thought away, clinging to the happier memories, but they felt tainted now. The image of that perfume bottle haunted him as he attempted to focus on the day ahead. "Michael," Rachel called from the living room, her voice bright and cheerful. "Can you help me with the decorations for Sophia's birthday party? I want it to be perfect." He made his way into the living room, where colorful streamers were strewn about, and Rachel was arranging balloons with the same enthusiasm she once reserved for their dates. She was beautiful, her hair cascading over her shoulders, her smile infectious. In that moment, he wanted to shake off the earlier unease. "Sure, I'm on it," he replied, forcing a smile. As they worked together, Michael couldn't help but notice how effortlessly Rachel moved. It was as if she danced around the room, lost in her own world. A part of him admired her vivacity, but another part felt a pang of sadness. The connection they once shared felt frayed, like a beloved sweater with too many pulls. "Do you remember our first anniversary?" Rachel asked, her eyes lighting up as she recalled the memory. "You surprised me with that dinner at that fancy restaurant. I thought I was going to cry." "Yeah, I still remember how you almost choked on that lobster," he chuckled, trying to match her energy. But even as he laughed, a shadow loomed in his mind. Reflection. That moment in the kitchen changed everything. The laughter echoed around them, but Michael couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. He knew he needed to confront Rachel, but fear held him back. What if he was wrong? What if he was just being paranoid? Later that evening, they settled down for dinner, the table adorned with Sophia's birthday decorations. The atmosphere was lively, filled with the sounds of happy chatter and the clinking of forks against plates. It should have been a perfect evening, yet a heaviness lingered in Michael's heart. As they finished their meal, Rachel stood up and headed to the kitchen. "I'll get dessert," she called back cheerfully. Michael watched her go, his mind racing. Should he say something now, or let it go until later? He took a deep breath, his heart pounding in his chest. "Rachel, can we talk for a second?" She paused, turning back to him with a curious look. "Sure, what's up?" "This perfume on the counter, it's not yours, is it?" Michael asked, his voice steady despite the storm brewing inside him. Rachel's smile faltered for just a moment, and in that fleeting expression, Michael saw a flicker of something. Fear? Guilt? "Oh, that? It's just a friend's," she said quickly, brushing it off with a wave of her hand. "Really? Because I don't remember you mentioning a friend who wears floral scents," he pressed, his heart racing as he felt the tension rise. She hesitated, her expression shifting. "Michael, it's not what you think, I promise." The smell of fresh coffee brought painful memories. Michael's mind raced, and with every passing second, the weight of uncertainty began to crush him. Would this conversation shatter everything they had built together? Would he find the truth he feared? "Just be honest with me, Rachel," he urged, his voice barely above a whisper. For a moment, silence hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Rachel looked away, her brow furrowed, and in that moment, Michael understood. Everything was about to change. Michael gazed out the window. "What a beautiful day," she whispered. Rachel noticed her distant look. "You seem lost in thought." The smell of fresh coffee wafted through the air, mingling with the crispness of the early morning breeze that danced through the kitchen window. Michael poured himself a steaming cup, the warmth of the mug grounding him in the moment. The wind chimes outside tinkled softly, a gentle reminder of the tranquility he had always cherished in his home. But today, that tranquility felt like a fragile illusion. As he stirred in a splash of cream, his thoughts drifted back to the last few weeks. Something had shifted in his relationship with Rachel. She had been distant, her laughter less frequent, her gaze more often lost in thought. Michael couldn't shake the feeling that there was something she wasn't sharing. He had tried to dismiss it, to convince himself that they were just going through a rough patch, but the nagging bout had burrowed deeper. Then, just yesterday, everything changed. Michael had gone for a walk to clear his mind, and as he strolled past a bustling cafe, he overheard a couple sitting at a nearby table. Their conversation was light and cheerful, but then he caught a name that made his heart sink. "Did you see Sophia at the restaurant last night?" one of them said, laughter ringing in their voice. "She was there with that guy again, laughing like they were old friends." Sophia? The name echoed in his mind, a painful reminder of the woman Rachel had confided in when their marriage started to falter. He couldn't believe it. "Oh my God," he muttered under his breath, feeling the blood rush from his face. The warmth of his coffee suddenly felt cold against his hands. He turned back toward home, each step heavier than the last, dread clawing at his insides. The realization struck him like a bolt of lightning. Rachel was not just reconnecting with an old friend, she was crossing lines he had thought were unbreakable. When he arrived home, he found Rachel in the living room, her hair cascading over her shoulders like a waterfall of silk. She looked up, her expression brightening as she caught sight of him. "Hey, you! How was your walk?" she asked, the smile on her lips not quite reaching her eyes. "Fine," he replied. "Can we talk for a minute?" "Can we talk for a minute?" "Sure, what's up?" Rachel's voice was light, but Michael could see the flicker of concern in her expression. "Have you been seeing Sophia?" The question hung in the air, thick with tension. Rachel froze for a moment, her gaze darting away as if searching for an escape. "What do you mean?" she asked, feigning innocence. "I overheard someone talking about it," Michael said, his heart racing. You were at the restaurant with another man, weren't you?" Rachel's silence was deafening. She finally looked at him, her eyes wide, betraying a mix of surprise and guilt. I was out with Brian," she stammered, the name feeling like a dagger in his heart. "Brian?" Michael repeated, disbelief coloring his voice. "So you're telling me you were just having dinner with him? Just friends?" "It's not what you think, Michael," she said, her voice shaky but firm. "We were just catching up. You know how things have been between us." "That's not the point," he shouted, the pain of betrayal igniting a fire within him. "You didn't even tell me you were meeting him. Do you understand how much that hurts?" Rachel stepped closer, her expression pleading. "I didn't want to worry you. I thought we were trying to work things out." Michael felt a wave of anger and confusion wash over him. By lying to me? By hiding things? You can't just pretend everything is fine when it's not. In the kitchen, it hurt like betrayal. The familiar comfort of their home felt foreign, tainted by secrets and unspoken truths. Michael turned away, the weight of his emotions threatening to crush him. "What do you want me to say?" Rachel asked, her voice softening, but Michael could hear the edge of defensiveness still clinging to her words. "I want you to be honest," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "I want to know where we stand, but if you're going to keep things from me, I don't know how we can move forward." "Michael, please. Just give me a chance to explain," she urged, desperation creeping into her tone. He looked at her then, searching for the woman he had married, the one who once filled his life with laughter and joy. But all he saw was the distance that had grown between them, a chasm he wasn't sure they could bridge. "Maybe we need some time apart," he said finally, the words tasting bitter on his tongue. "I can't believe you'd say that," Rachel whispered, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Neither can I," he replied, his heart heavy with the weight of their unraveling relationship. He turned away, feeling the ache of loss settle in, knowing that everything had changed in that single moment. He stepped out onto the porch, the fresh morning air filling his lungs, but it didn't bring the relief he sought. Instead, it hung thick with uncertainty, the wind chimes ringing out a haunting melody that echoed the chaos in his heart. Michael took a deep breath. "We need to have a serious conversation." Rachel tensed up. About what exactly? Michael sat on the edge of the couch, the familiar scent of fresh coffee lingering in the air, mingling with the faint smell of rain on the pavement outside. The rhythmic sound of distant traffic seemed to echo the turmoil in his mind. He could still see Rachel's face in his memory, her laughter lighting up the restaurant where he had seen her with another man. Oh my God, how could this be happening? His heart sank deeper with every fleeting thought, each one sharper than the last. "Michael, you're quiet," Brian said, entering the room with a concerned look. He plopped down beside his brother, the cushions sinking under their weight. "What's going on?" Michael took a deep breath, the air thick with unspoken words. "I saw Rachel today, at the restaurant, with him." His voice wavered, the admission feeling like a jagged rock lodged in his throat. Brian's expression shifted from confusion to disbelief. "No way! You're sure it was her?" "Yeah," Michael replied, running a hand through his hair. "I can't believe this. I thought we were working through things." Brian leaned in closer, his eyes narrowing. "Did you talk to her? Confront her about it?" "Not yet. I just let them order dessert first." The irony of his own statement hung in the air, a bitter reminder of the situation he found himself in. Brian frowned, his brow furrowing. "You need to talk to her, man. You can't just sit here and let this fester." Michael shook his head, the weight of betrayal heavy on his shoulders. What if she has a reason? What if it's not what it seems? "You really think that?" Brian shot back. "She's been distant for months. You can't keep making excuses for her." Just then, Karen walked in, sensing the tension. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice calm yet inquisitive. "Michael saw Rachel with another guy," Brian blurted out, his frustration spilling over. Karen's eyes softened as she looked at Michael. "Oh, honey. I can't believe this. Have you spoken to her about it?" "No, not yet. I don't even know what to say," Michael admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "You deserve the truth, whatever that may be," Karen said, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Just remember, sometimes things aren't what they appear. You need to confront her, but don't jump to conclusions." A flicker of hope ignited within him, but it was quickly extinguished by doubt. What if she tells me it's nothing? What if I'm just imagining things? "Maybe she'll surprise you," Karen suggested gently. "I've been in a similar situation before, and I thought I knew everything. But sometimes the truth is more complicated than it seems." Michael looked at her, searching for reassurance in her eyes. "You really think so?" "Absolutely," she replied. "But you'll never know until you ask. Don't hide from your feelings, Michael. You have to face this." As Karen's words settled in his heart, a wave of determination washed over him. He stood up, the rain outside intensifying, tapping against the windows like a countdown. "I need to talk to her. I can't wait any longer." Brian nodded, pride swelling in his chest. "That's the spirit. Just remember to stay calm. You can do this." Michael took one last glance around the living room, where the weight of unspoken truths hung thick in the air. He could feel the storm brewing inside him, but he wouldn't let it consume him. As he stepped outside, the rain cooled his heated thoughts, each drop washing away a bit of his anxiety. He drove towards the restaurant, the pavement glistening in the dim light, reflections of his doubts swirling in the water. How could he confront Rachel without losing everything? When he finally arrived, his heart raced. He spotted Rachel and the man through the window, her laughter ringing out like a cruel melody. Preserved at the entrance, the door heavy in his hands. He could see them sharing dessert, their smiles too intimate, too carefree. In that moment, he took a deep breath, the cool air filling his lungs. He pushed the door open, the chime echoing like a bell tolling for his shattered faith. "Rachel!" he called out, his voice steady despite the chaos inside him. She turned, her smile faltering as their eyes locked. "Michael, I didn't expect to see you here." "No, I bet you didn't," he said, his voice dripping with an edge he didn't intend to convey. "We need to talk." The man beside her shifted uncomfortably, sensing the tension in the air. Rachel hesitated, glancing between Michael and her companion. "Can't it wait? We're in the middle of something." "No, it can't wait," Michael insisted, his heart racing as he stepped closer. "I saw you, Rachel. I need to know what's going on." For a moment, silence enveloped them. Rachel's expression shifted. A mix of surprise and something else. Was it guilt? "Michael, she started, but he cut her off. "Just tell me the truth. I deserve that much." As the weight of their history hung in the air, Michael felt an unexpected surge of clarity. He was ready to face whatever truth awaited him. "I can't believe you did this," Michael exclaimed. Rachel tried to explain, but words failed him. Michael stepped outside onto the porch, the soft smell of fresh grass mingling with the lingering scent of coffee in his mug. It was a crisp morning, the kind where the sun peeked through the trees, casting dappled shadows on the wooden planks beneath his feet. Birds chirped merrily in the distance, but he felt none of their joy. Instead, an overwhelming sense of dread settled in the pit of his stomach. He had thought about calling Rachel, asking her if they could talk. But after seeing her at the restaurant, laughing and sharing dessert with another man, he felt paralyzed. "Oh my God," he whispered to himself, the words tasting bitter on his tongue. His heart sank deeper as he recalled the way she had looked that night, her smile radiant and free, as if she had forgotten all about their life together. Just as he sipped his coffee, his phone buzzed in his pocket, pulling him out of his spiraling thoughts. It was Brian, his brother. "Hey man, you okay?" Michael sighed, the weight of his heartache pressing down on him. "I don't know, Brian. I saw Rachel last night with someone else." "Wait, what do you mean? You saw her?" Brian's voice was a mixture of concern and disbelief. "I thought she was just out with friends." "But she was there with a guy, and they looked close." "Damn it, Michael, I told you I had a bad feeling about her." "I thought she was different," Michael replied, his voice barely above a whisper. He felt as if he were trapped in a nightmare from which he couldn't wake. "I just can't believe this is happening." "Listen, let me come over. We can figure this out together." "Yeah, all right," Michael said, but his mind was already racing with images of Rachel's laughter and the warmth of her touch, memories that now felt tainted. As he hung up, he glanced at his phone again, seeking any distraction from his thoughts. But then something caught his eye, a notification from social media. He hesitated for just a moment, but curiosity nodded him. He opened the app, and his heart dropped as he scrolled through his feed. There it was, an image of Rachel, beaming with joy, her arm draped over a man dressed in a chef's coat. The caption read, "Sophia and Chef Dan at the food festival. Great food, even better company." Michael's breath caught in his throat. They looked so intimate, their laughter frozen in time, a snapshot of everything he feared. His mind raced, and he felt like he was drowning. "This can't be real," he muttered, staring at the screen. The world around him faded, and all he could hear was the pounding of his heart. In that moment, the porch transformed. On the porch, it hurt like heartbreak. The chirping birds seemed to taunt him, each note a reminder of the betrayal he was trying to process. A knock on the door pulled him back to reality. It was Brian. Michael opened the door, his face a mask of confusion and hurt. "Hey," Brian said, stepping inside, immediately sensing the heavy atmosphere. "What's going on?" Michael gestured toward his phone, his hands trembling slightly. "Look at this." Brian took the phone and scanned the image, his expression shifting from concern to anger. "Are you kidding me? This is insane, Michael. You deserve better than this." "Better? How can I even think about better when I'm still trying to process this?" Michael's voice cracked, the pain palpable. "I don't even know who she is anymore." "She's the same Rachel you married," Brian insisted, his tone unwavering. "You need to talk to her. Don't let this fester." "But what if she's already made her choice?" Michael's chest tightened at the thought. "Then you'll know, and you can start moving on," Brian replied firmly. "You're stronger than this." Michael looked out at the yard, his mind a whirlwind of emotions. He took a deep breath, trying to find some semblance of clarity amid the chaos. "I just feel so lost right now." "Then let's figure it out," Brian said, placing a hand on his brother's shoulder. "You're not alone in this." Michael nodded, a flicker of hope igniting within him. He realized that even in heartbreak, there was still a path forward, even if it felt shrouded in uncertainty. "All right," he finally said, his voice steadier. "Let's confront this together." He took a deep breath, preparing himself for the conversation that lay ahead, knowing it would define not just his relationship with Rachel, but his own sense of self. "My heart sank," Michael whispered in disbelief. "I can explain everything," Rachel said desperately. "Michael, I can explain everything," Rachel said desperately, her voice trembling. His heart raced, a mix of anger and sadness coursing through him. "Explain what, Rachel? That you were with him at the festival? That you looked so happy while I was here, wondering where you were? Please, just let me talk." She stepped closer, her eyes pleading. The early morning sun caught the glimmer of unshed tears, and for a moment he felt a flicker of the love that had once burned brightly between them. "Talk?" he scoffed, the bitterness spilling out. "What's there to say? I saw the picture. I saw you with him, laughing like we never existed. How do you even begin to explain that?" The gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the nearby oak tree, and the wind chimes hanging from the porch swayed softly, creating an almost eerie soundtrack to their confrontation. "I didn't mean for you to find out this way," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It was supposed to be a simple dinner with Sophia. Chef Dan is just a friend." "Just a friend?" Michael interrupted, his voice rising. "You don't share intimate moments like that with just friends, Rachel." "I know how it looks, but you have to trust me," she insisted, stepping even closer. The space between them felt charged, thick with unspoken words. "Trust? Trust is shattered, Rachel. How am I supposed to trust you again after this?" His hands clenched into fists, the mug he had held earlier now forgotten on the porch railing. "I made a mistake," she said, her voice cracking. "I never meant to hurt you. I thought we were drifting apart. I wanted to feel alive again." Michael's breath hitched at her confession, the truth hitting him harder than any blow. "So, you sought comfort in someone else instead of talking to me?" "Yes, I was scared and I didn't know how to reach out. I thought I could handle it alone," she pleaded, desperation etched on her face. He shook his head, feeling the weight of despair pressing down on him. "You should have come to me. We could have faced this together. Now it feels like I don't even know you." The silence hung between them, thick and suffocating. Michael's mind raced, trying to grasp the enormity of the situation. A small part of him wanted to forgive her, to believe in the love they once shared, but another part screamed that he deserved better than this confusion. "Rachel, I need time," he finally said, the words heavy with finality. "I can't do this right now." Her shoulders slumped, and he saw her resolve begin to crumble. "I understand," she whispered, tears spilling over. "But please, don't give up on us." As she stepped back, the sun began to rise higher, casting long shadows across the porch. Michael felt a deep emptiness inside, a chasm that had opened between them. He turned away, gazing out at the yard. The vibrant colors of the flowers contrasting sharply with the dull ache in his chest. With a heavy heart, he knew he had to find his way back to himself before he could even think of moving forward with her. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the backyard as Michael sat on the porch, the scent of fresh grass mingling with the distant aroma of barbecue wafting through the neighborhood. It was a typical Saturday evening, one he once cherished, filled with laughter and the promise of family. Yet now it felt like a hollow echo of what used to be. His heart ached as he replayed the scene at the restaurant in his mind. Rachel, laughing effortlessly, leaning into another man. The image was seared into his memory, a cruel reminder of betrayal. He pulled a small, weathered envelope from his pocket, its edges frayed from years of neglect. It was an old love letter he had written to Sophia before he and Rachel had married. With a trembling hand, he opened it. The familiar scent of old paper mixing with the freshness of the evening air. The words danced before his eyes, each sentence a reminder of the love and dreams he once held dear, dreams he had set aside when he chose Rachel. "I can't believe this," he whispered to himself, feeling the weight of nostalgia wash over him. The letter spoke of hopes for the future, of endless summers and laughter shared under starlit skies. As he read, the sound of birds chirping filled the air, a stark contrast to the turmoil within him. It was in this moment that a flicker of hope ignited in his chest. Maybe he could fight for what they once had. The realization hit him like a bolt of lightning. He had the power to reclaim his narrative, to confront Rachel and demand clarity. But would he be ready for the truth? Lost in his thoughts, he barely noticed when Karen stepped onto the porch, a knowing look on her face. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said, leaning against the railing. Michael chuckled dryly. "More like a nightmare." "What happened?" she asked softly, her voice laced with concern. "I saw Rachel with another man," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't even know what to think anymore." "Oh my God," Karen said, her eyes widening. "Did you talk to her?" I don't know if I can." He hesitated, the weight of his emotions pressing down on him.
My heart sank when I saw them. I can't just confront her without knowing what I want to say. Michael, you deserve answers, Karen urged, her tone firm yet gentle. You can't just let this fester. You need to talk to her. As her words sank in, Michael felt a surge of determination. He had been passive for too long. You're right, he said finally, standing up. I can't let this go without a fight. I have to know if we can salvage anything. Then go, Karen encouraged, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. You've got this. Before he stepped off the porch, he took a deep breath.
Preserve the original language of BBQ that reminded him of family gatherings, of laughter and warmth. This was not just about confronting Rachel, it was about reclaiming his life, his happiness. The walk to Rachel's place felt surreal. Each step was heavy with dread and hope intertwined. He could see the glow of lights through the window, flickering like the uncertainty in his heart. The image of her and that man flashed in his mind again, but this time it fueled his resolve. He would not allow fear to dictate his actions any longer. Arriving at the door, he hesitated, his hand poised to knock. That moment at the door changed everything. The weight of what he was about to do pressed down on him, but he knew he had to move forward. He knocked, the sound echoing in the quiet evening. A moment later, Rachel opened the door, her expression shifting from surprise to concern. Michael, what are you doing here? Can we talk? He asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Of course, she said, stepping aside to let him in. The air felt thick with tension as he crossed the threshold, the atmosphere heavy with unspoken words. Once inside, Rachel glanced around, her demeanor shifting slightly. Is everything okay? Not really, he replied, the words tumbling out. I saw you at the restaurant. I can't pretend it didn't hurt. She opened her mouth to respond, but he held up a hand. Before you say anything, I need you to understand that I'm not here to accuse you. I need to know what's going on. What are we doing, Rachel? For a moment, the silence stretched between them, each heartbeat echoing the uncertainty that filled the room. Rachel's expression softened, and he could see the conflict in her eyes. Michael, Please, he interrupted, his heart racing. I need to know if there's still something worth saving between us. The weight of the moment hung in the air, and for the first time in a long time, Michael felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe they could find their way back to each other. Maybe this confrontation could lead to healing. As Rachel began to speak, he realized that the journey ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, he felt ready to face it. As Michael stood in the kitchen, the smell of rain on the pavement wafted through the open window, mingling with the aroma of the BBQ ribs simmering on the stove. His heart felt heavy, a weight that seemed to pull him deeper into the turmoil of emotions swirling within him. Just moments ago, he had watched Rachel through the restaurant window, laughing with another man, and now here he was, replaying that image in his mind like a haunting melody. Michael? Brian's voice broke through the haze of his thoughts. He stepped into the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dish towel. You okay, man? Michael turned, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. I can't believe this is happening, Brian. I just saw her. With him. His voice cracked, the betrayal stinging like a fresh wound. Brian leaned against the counter, crossing his arms. You need to talk to her. You can't just let this eat away at you. Michael shook his head, the frustration bubbling up inside him. What am I supposed to say? Oh, by the way, I saw you with another guy, so let's chat about our feelings? Yeah, actually, Brian said, his tone firm. You need to confront her. You can't let this fester. You deserve answers. With a sigh, Michael turned back to the stove, stirring the ribs absent-mindedly. The sound of distant traffic outside felt like a reminder of the world continuing on, indifferent to his heartbreak. What if she denies it? What if I'm just overreacting? Just then, Karen walked in, her presence filling the room with a comforting energy. "What's going on?" she asked, sensing the tension in the air. Michael glanced at her, his heart sinking further. "I saw Rachel with another man, Karen. I don't know what to think anymore." Karen's expression softened, her eyes searching his. "Oh my God, Michael, have you talked to her yet?" "Not yet. I'm scared, I guess. Scared of what I might find out," he admitted, feeling the vulnerability creep in. "Sometimes the truth hurts, but it's better than living with the doubt," Karen replied gently. "You owe it to yourself to find out what's really happening." As the three of them stood in the kitchen, Michael felt a surge of courage rising within him. He couldn't keep avoiding this confrontation. "You're right," he said, finally resolved. "I'll talk to her tonight." Brian nodded, his expression supportive. "And I'll be here for you, no matter what." The doorbell rang, cutting through the tense atmosphere. Michael's heart raced as he walked toward the front door, the sound echoing in his ears like thunder. He hesitated for a moment, the weight of the impending conversation hanging over him. "What if she's not alone?" he muttered to himself. "Just open it." Brian encouraged, his voice steady. Taking a deep breath, Michael swung open the door, and his heart sank even further. There stood Rachel, looking radiant as ever. Yet the smile that adorned her face felt like a dagger to his heart. "Michael, I was just in the neighborhood," she exclaimed, a hint of surprise in her voice. "Rachel," he said, his tone measured, "we need to talk." "Now? Can't it wait?" She stepped inside, and Michael noticed a hint of nervousness in her eyes, a flicker that made his heart race. "No, it can't wait," he replied, forcing the words out. "I saw you at the restaurant, with him." Rachel's expression faltered for a moment before she quickly regained her composure. "Oh my God, I can explain," she stammered, her voice rising in pitch. "Explain what? That you're out with another man while I'm here, wondering what I did wrong?" His voice trembled, the hurt pouring out like rain on the pavement outside. "Michael, please, it's not what you think," she said, desperation creeping into her tone. Just then, Sophia, the restaurant's chef, appeared behind Rachel, holding a small cake adorned with candles. "Surprise!" she beamed, completely oblivious to the tension that hung thick in the air. Michael blinked, confusion washing over him. "What's going on?" Rachel turned to him, her eyes wide. "I've been planning a surprise for your birthday. Sophia is here to deliver the cake and help me with the BBQ recipe." The revelation hit him like a freight train, leaving him reeling. A surprise? This whole time? His heart raced, a mix of relief and disbelief flooding through him. "I wanted it to be special, something to show you how much I care," Rachel explained, her voice softer now. "I didn't mean for you to see me with Sophia. We were just discussing the menu." Brian stepped forward, a smirk on his face. "Well, that explains the mystery man." Michael's heart raced again, but this time with a different kind of emotion. "You scared the hell out of me." "Rachel," he said, feeling the tension begin to dissipate. I know," she interrupted, her eyes glistening. "I'm sorry for not telling you sooner. I just wanted it to be a surprise, and I didn't want to ruin it." The kitchen felt lighter now, the earlier heaviness lifting as the unexpected twist unraveled the tension. Michael glanced at Brian, then back at Rachel, and for the first time in what felt like forever, he felt a flicker of hope spark in his chest. "I guess we need to talk about a lot more than just surprises," he said, a cautious smile breaking through. "Yeah," Rachel said, stepping closer. "Let's start with honesty." And as the sound of distant traffic faded into the background, Michael realized that this moment could be the turning point they both needed. "Enough!" Michael shouted, her voice echoing. "Please, let me speak," Rachel pleaded. "There's nothing left to say," Michael finalized. The rain had just finished its gentle tap dance on the pavement outside, leaving the air fresh and cool, mingling with the distant hum of traffic. Michael sat in his living room, the faint smell of BBQ lingering from last night's dinner, a reminder of simpler times. He could still picture Rachel, her laughter ringing like music as they shared a meal with friends.
Those moments felt so far away now, like a distant memory blurred by the harshness of the present. His heart sank as he replayed the scene he had witnessed earlier. Rachel, sitting across the table from another man, her eyes sparkling with joy that should have been reserved for him. The image burned in his mind, an unwanted tattoo of betrayal. "Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening," he muttered to himself, gripping the armrest of the couch as he fought against the wave of emotions crashing over him. Brian entered the room, his brow furrowed with concern. "You okay, man?" he asked, his voice a soothing balm against Michael's turmoil. "I saw Rachel. She was at that new Italian place with someone else," Michael replied, his voice trembling. "They were laughing, Brian. I felt like I was watching a movie, a really bad one." Brian nodded, understanding the weight of his brother's pain. "Did you talk to her? Confront her?" Michael shook his head, lost in thought. "No, I wanted to let them order dessert first. It felt like a moment to pause, to savor the sweetness of truth before indulging in the bitterness of doubt." Reflection. That moment in the living room changed everything. He realized he wasn't just angry, he was heartbroken. His love for Rachel had always felt like a solid foundation, but now it seemed like shifting sand beneath his feet. Brian moved closer, his voice low and steady. "You deserve to know the truth, Mike. If she's with someone else, you need to confront her." "But what if I'm wrong?" Michael countered, his voice cracking. "What if I'm just seeing what I want to see? Maybe they're just friends."
"Friends don't share dessert like that," Brian replied, frustration creeping into his tone. "You know what you saw. You need to talk to her." The thought of confrontation made Michael's stomach churn. He could already envision Rachel's charming smile, that facade of innocence. Would she deny it? Would she twist the truth to fit her narrative? In the living room, it hurt like hope. He thought of their wedding vows, the promises exchanged under the warm glow of fairy lights. Love was supposed to be unwavering, steadfast against the storms of life. Yet here he was, standing at the precipice of doubt, unsure of the ground beneath him. "Maybe I should just let it go," Michael said, staring at the floor, where a small rug bore the marks of countless footsteps. "Maybe it's easier to pretend I didn't see anything." "Is that really what you want?" Brian asked, his eyes piercing through the haze of Michael's confusion. "To live a lie?" Michael leaned back, closing his eyes. The distant traffic roared outside, a reminder of the world continuing on, indifferent to his pain. "I don't know what I want anymore," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I just wish it didn't hurt so much." Brian sighed, sitting down across from him. "Pain is part of it, Mike, but running away won't make it disappear. You need to face her, even if it's hard." Michael opened his eyes, meeting his brother's gaze. "And what if I lose her? What if confronting her means losing the love I thought we had?" "Sometimes," Brian said slowly, "the hardest truths lead to the most profound transformations. You deserve to know where you stand." Thought. The smell of barbecue brought painful memories. Michael thought of the last time they had grilled together, laughing and sharing stories under the stars. Now, those memories felt tainted, overshadowed by the betrayal he had witnessed. "Okay," Michael finally said, resolve beginning to take root in his heart. "I'll talk to her. I can't live in this limbo anymore." "Good," Brian replied, relief washing over his face. "Just remember, no matter what happens, you have me. You're not alone in this." Michael nodded, grateful for his brother's unwavering support. "Thanks, Brian. I really needed that." As the rain began to fall softly again, a sense of clarity washed over Michael. He might face heartbreak, but it was better to know the truth than to live a lie. In the end, sometimes love requires a moment of pause, like letting them order dessert first, to savor the sweetness of truth before indulging in the bitterness of doubt. And you, on your porch, what would you choose to confront? Michael smiled for the first time in days. "Everything will be okay." Rachel nodded.
You're stronger than you know. Michael smiled for the first time in days. Everything will be okay. Brian raised an eyebrow, a hint of skepticism crossing his face. You really believe that? Not yet, Michael admitted,
his heart still heavy. But I can't let fear dictate my choices anymore. I have to know. The rain picked up outside, tapping rhythmically against the windows, creating a backdrop for his thoughts. The air felt charged, heavy with anticipation. He could almost taste the bitterness of uncertainty on his tongue, a sharp contrast to the sweet memories of laughter shared with Rachel. Let's grab some coffee, Brian suggested, breaking the silence. You could use a little caffeine boost before you face the music. Yeah, that sounds good, Michael replied, rising from the couch. He stretched his arms overhead, trying to shake off the weight that clung to him like a damp blanket. As they stepped out onto the porch, the smell of rain-soaked earth enveloped them. The world outside was alive, colors more vivid under the glistening droplets. Distant honks and the whir of vehicles filled the air, a reminder that life marched on, oblivious to his inner turmoil. Do you remember when we were kids and used to sit out here during storms? Brian asked, his eyes drifting back to the sky. We'd pretend we were on a pirate ship, battling the elements. Michael chuckled softly, the memory a welcome respite from his heartache. Yeah, and we'd always end up drenched, running inside to avoid getting grounded. Just like now, Brian said, nudging him playfully. You can't let this storm drown you, Mike. You have to navigate through it. As they reached the coffee shop, the aroma of roasted beans hit him like a warm embrace. The chatter of patrons, the clinking of cups, and the whir of the espresso machine felt almost comforting, a stark contrast to the chaos in his heart. Order whatever you want, Brian encouraged, his tone light. This is on me. Thanks, Michael replied, his voice barely above a whisper. He stepped up to the counter, scanning the menu but feeling lost. He needed clarity, not just caffeine. What will it be? The barista asked, her smile bright against the muted backdrop. Just a black coffee, please, he said, forcing a smile back. As he waited for his drink, Michael felt a wave of determination wash over him. He would confront Rachel today, and no matter the outcome, he would emerge stronger. Ready? Brian asked, holding his steaming cup. Michael nodded, feeling a flicker of hope ignite within him. Let's do this.